The
Get
days
ready,
of pretending
because the
are
truths
over.
buried deep
The
within your
truth is
bloodline
demanding
aren't going
to
to
be
stay
heard
hidden
now.
much longer.
What once
The
could be
signs
hidden
are already
beneath
starting to
surface-level
show,
distractions
quietly at first,
can no longer
but
be ignored.
unmistakably.
Your person
You may think
is
you're simply
beginning to
living your
see
own life,
that the life they've
making
built
your own
might not
choices,
be built
forming
on
your
truth.
own identity.
And that realization,
But what if that's
while
only
painful,
part of the
is
story?
the first step toward
What if,
freedom.
in reality,
So,
so much
if
of what you
things feel
do,
intense,
the things you fear,
unpredictable,
the way you
or
speak,
emotionally charged
and even
right
what
now,
you avoid,
trust
are
that it's
echoes of
all
those
part
who
of
came
a
before
divine
you.
clearing.
There's a
You're
deeper
being
truth
asked
most
to
people
surrender
overlook.
the illusion of control.
Not everything that's been
and
passed
allow
down
spirit
through
to move what
generations
needs
is
to
sacred.
move.
Some of
Your
it,
connection
though
is
wrapped in the
sacred,
comforting
but
label
it's
of
also
tradition,
transforming.
was never
It's
meant to
shedding
guide
layers,
you.
outdated
In
beliefs,
fact, some of it was a
karmic
spiritual
baggage,
trap,
and what
inherited
will
not out of
remain
love,
once
but
the
out of
dust
fear,
settles
pain, or
is something
suppression.
far more real.
This
Whether that
upcoming
means
strawberry full
reunion or
moon
release,
isn't just
know
drifting
this.
in like a quiet
Nothing
night
you've
sky moment.
experienced here
It's
has
here with
been in
purpose.
vain.
It's
Every
here to stir
tear,
your roots,
every silence,
to rattle the quiet
every
beliefs
moment of
and
longing
deep
has been
conditioning
part of your
that have
soul's
silently shaped your
expansion.
path
You've
without
helped
you
awaken
realizing it.
something in your person
Those
that no one
familiar
else
family
could.
phrases,
And in turn,
the ones you've heard
they've
your whole
pushed you
life,
to love yourself
yes,
more deeply
some
than
hold
ever
beautiful wisdom.
before. This
But others,
is a powerful and
they may have
pivotal year
unconsciously
for both
encouraged
of you.
you to shrink yourself,
Transformation is the
to
theme,
stay quiet,
and love,
to play
in its
small.
purest form, is the destination.
Not all guidance from the
But before
past
love
was
can
harmful,
bloom again, it must be
but not
rooted
all of
in
it
truth.
was meant to accompany the
That's what
version of you
2025
that you're now
is
becoming.
demanding of all of us.
Something is shifting
Realness,
on a deep,
alignment,
energetic
integrity.
level. It's
So
as if
stay
your
grounded.
spiritual family tree
Stay
is
soft.
being shaken,
Stay open,
and
but
not every
discerning,
piece of fruit
because
is
your
meant
energy
to stay.
is sacred.
Some things
And the
only
version of you
fall
that's
when you're
emerging now,
finally ready to cut the
They're not going
branch
to
that's been
accept
holding
anything
them.
less than everything
this
you
moon,
deserve.
It's handing
Let
you
your
the
heart
saw.
stay open, but only
If you
to what
found yourself
aligns.
lately questioning
Let your
long-held
intuition
beliefs,
lead, even
the
when
ones
the
you
path
inherited
isn't
but
clear.
never chose,
And above all,
that's not just
trust
coincidence.
that what's meant for you,
It's part
what's
of this
truly
moment.
meant for you, will
And if
not
this
miss
speaks
you.
to something you've been
Not
feeling,
now,
know
not ever.
that you're not alone.
If you're finding value
You're
in
standing
this
at the
content,
edge of an
consider
ancestral
supporting
breakthrough.
our channel by giving a super
Pay attention.
thanks. It truly
You may soon
makes a
hear something
difference.
from a family member,
And please,
someone close,
don't forget
someone
to
familiar,
subscribe for
that
more
suddenly makes
uplifting
everything
updates
click.
and content
It won't
that
be
can
loud or
inspire
dramatic,
and encourage you.
but it will feel like a
Your
quiet
support
confirmation.
means so much,
And when it happens,
and we are grateful
you'll feel it.
for each of you.
There's a reason why these words are finding you right now. Here's something most people don't realize about this moon. It's named for sweetness, harvest, abundance. But sweetness, as beautiful as it sounds, can sometimes deceive. Just because something ripens doesn't mean it's pure. Sometimes what ripens reveals what's been festering beneath the surface all along. This moment isn't only about receiving, it's about knowing when to spit out what was never meant for you to swallow. On June 11th, the strawberry full moon is going to offer you something powerful. It will invite you to taste test your legacy. Not every part of what you've inherited is meant to be kept. Some pieces will nourish your soul, but others are poison, dressed up in the warm familiarity of nostalgia. It's easy to hold on to rituals just because they're known, just because they feel safe. But ask yourself honestly, did those customs ever truly love you? Or did they just love your silence? This moon doesn't want your performance, your perfection, or your politeness. It wants your truth. It's not asking you to sugarcoat your history. It's asking you to investigate it, to look closely at which seeds you willingly planted, and which ones were planted in you without your permission. This isn't just another full moon. This is a reckoning. It's not a time for celebration. It's a time for separation. Not out of rebellion, but out of recognition. Recognition of what's true, what's aligned, and what no longer fits. Lately, you may have noticed something feels off. Not in an explosive way, not in a dramatic fallout kind of way. Just subtly. The same conversations, the same routines, even the tone certain people use. Suddenly, they don't land the way they used to. They feel hollow. maybe even manipulative. You're not angry. You're not triggered. But your energy reacts before you even realize it. It's like your soul knows before your mind catches up. There's a mismatch now, a vibration that no longer fits who you are becoming. This isn't rejection, it's resonance. You're not pushing your family away. You're simply releasing the version of yourself that had to pretend everything was okay just to belong. That version was brave. It was necessary. It helped you survive. But it can't come with you on the next part of your journey. Tradition stops being sacred the moment it stops being questioned. And right now, something deeper is unfolding. This isn't just an emotional wave or a temporary mood. It's the energetic preparation for something entirely new. The phrases, the roles, the rituals that once kept you caged are now too small to hold the truth of who you're becoming. You're not overwhelmed. You're not broken. You're simply waking up inside a pattern that never truly belonged to you. And while you're doing all this inner untangling, quietly, subtly, there's someone else in your family who's beginning to act a little strange. Maybe you've already noticed it. They're not lashing out, but something's different. Maybe they've gone unusually quiet. Maybe they're spacing out in the middle of conversations, saying things that feel just a little off. Or perhaps they're suddenly trying to explain themselves, justify past behavior no one even brought up. It's subtle, but it's there. This isn't just them having an off week. It's something deeper. Your awakening is sending out ripples through your lineage, and it's shaking something loose in someone else too. Their spirit may be responding to a shift they don't even fully understand yet. And this strange behavior, it's not random. It's confirmation. You're not imagining things. You're not overreacting. You're just finally seeing clearly. You're tuning into a truth that's been waiting, hidden beneath layers of family patterns, generational expectations, and silent agreements. And now, with the light of this full moon illuminating everything, what was once buried can finally be seen. You're not imagining things or reading too much into what's happening. What you're picking up on is real. It's spiritual static. Your inner transformation, that quiet resistance rising from deep within you, is creating waves through the energetic ties that bind you to your family. Even if they don't understand it consciously, something inside them is responding. They feel it. And the more you shift your frequency, the more those carefully worn masks around you start to slip. What you're witnessing isn't drama or coincidence. It's the pushback of stagnant energy being stirred after lying dormant for far too long. Some people in your family have lived in denial for years, even decades. Your growth stirs something in them, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're doing something they never could. You're breaking patterns, choosing differently, becoming conscious of things that have always operated in the shadows. And while it's not your responsibility to fix anyone, it is your responsibility to pay attention. The way certain people respond to your evolution will quietly reveal all the unspoken rules you were expected to follow without question. And soon, maybe even unexpectedly, someone might say something that seems oddly specific, strangely timed, and in that moment, it will all click. Everything you've been sensing will be confirmed. But before that moment arrives, there's a deeper layer unfolding beneath this moon. It has to do with a person in your family whose name isn't mentioned often, if ever. When they are brought up, it's not with love or anger, just a vague discomfort that changes the tone of the room. It could be anyone, an aunt, a grandfather, a cousin, someone who didn't quite fit the mold, who thought differently, walked their path in a way others couldn't understand. While the rest of the family moved on, erasing their name from stories and holiday conversations, you, without even realizing, kept circling around their memory. This moon isn't just breaking generational chains, it's awakening energetic echoes. And if you found yourself feeling a mysterious pull toward a particular ancestor, a certain memory, or even a family story that seems out of place, that's not random. That's not nostalgia. That's recognition. You may be walking a path they once tried to take but couldn't finish. You may be living a truth they saw too early, one that got them silenced or pushed to the margins. Because not every ancestor hands down trauma. Some leave behind their unfinished sentences, hoping someone like you would come along to complete the story. And now, you are that sentence. You are the unwritten page they never got to live. If you felt their sadness, their longing, their rebellion, it's not because you're broken or overly sensitive. It's because the thread that connects you to them was never cut. It only went quiet. They may have disappeared in subtle ways, changing their name, moving away without a trace, or simply shrinking into themselves until they were no longer seen. But their story didn't end. It paused. And now, somehow, their footsteps are overlapping with yours. This is the inheritance no one prepares you for. It's not wealth or land or heirloom recipes. It's energy. It's repeated patterns. It's quiet attempts at freedom. It's the echoes of their struggle, their escape, their misunderstood wisdom, flowing into your life now that you're ready to carry it further. They didn't vanish. They waited. Waited for someone strong enough, aware enough, ready enough. And now that you're awakening, their signal is coming through loud and clear. This full moon is amplifying that resonance. Like a broadcast tower, it's sending out a message for anyone tuned in deeply enough to receive it. They did what they could. They pushed as far as they could go. And now, it's your turn. But the truth you're seeking doesn't always come dressed like a revelation. Sometimes it slips in quietly, tucked into an unexpected laugh or a moment that feels too casual to matter. That thing I mentioned before, about a family member saying something strange, something that confirms everything you've been feeling. It's not going to look like a grand confession. It won't be dramatic or emotional. It might happen during a simple conversation, maybe over dinner or in passing. You might not even be paying attention when it drops. Just a sentence, a memory, a comment that echoes something you've only seen in dreams or felt in your bones. A phrase you've never heard before, but the moment it's said, it anchors itself deep inside you like lightning. This moon doesn't whisper, it orchestrates. It delivers the truth through the quietest messengers. And when it arrives, it might not even feel magical right away. It might seem like you just overheard something you weren't supposed to, but your soul will recognize it instantly. That moment, that one sentence, that pause after a joke, that strange timing, it won't just be random. It'll be a message. Not from them, but through them. Because when you're ready to hear the truth, the universe will use whatever means necessary to get it to you. And here's the part that might leave your stomach in knots. They probably won't even remember saying it. Because it wasn't entirely them. It was energy moving through them, alignment orchestrated by the moon, words pulled from the unseen and spoken out loud at exactly the right moment. That's when you'll know you weren't wrong. You weren't making it up. You weren't imagining connections where none existed. Everything was always linked. The story you've been trying to rewrite in silence just found its missing chapter. But what happens after that realization is just as important as the realization itself. Because once you receive the message, everything shifts. The spiritual weather around you begins to change, and the path forward asks something more of you. Not just awareness, but action. What you do next becomes the bridge between what they couldn't complete and what you're here to finish. You're not just witnessing the unraveling of old energy. You're part of the healing that your lineage has waited generations for. And though the work may feel invisible, quiet, even lonely at times, know this: the ones who came before you are closer now than they've ever been. Not to haunt you, but to walk with you. Not to hold you back, but to witness you succeed where they couldn't. A tear doesn't always fall because of what's happening now. Sometimes it's because your soul has remembered something so big it can't stay quiet anymore. That's the strange and unexpected energy of this full moon. People often imagine breakdowns happening during dramatic arguments or heavy silences, but this one is different. It arrives in the softest moments. While you're raising a glass in celebration, while laughter fills the room, while you're surrounded by the people you love and feel lucky to have, that's when it might hit. That's when the wave comes. This full moon, the strawberry moon, doesn't just surface memories. It highlights the contrast between what is and what was. You might suddenly hear a laugh that reminds you of how love used to come with terms and conditions. A compliment from someone close, maybe even a parent, might feel sincere but also stir a quiet ache, bringing back the parts of you that had to be hidden or changed just to receive that kind of kindness. The revelations don't come through sorrow, they arrive through joy, and that's why they land so deeply. You're not crying over something painful from long ago. You're crying because, for a moment, you finally see the past for what it was. You see how affection was often conditional, doled out in measures, tethered to expectations and duty. Some inheritances aren't material objects, they're emotional patterns, ways of being, of giving and withholding, of surviving more than thriving. If you're suddenly overwhelmed during a moment that should feel beautiful, don't dismiss it. Don't tell yourself you're being too much. What you're feeling is the release of something long hidden finally rising to the surface. This moon isn't here to steal your joy. It's here to cleanse it, to make sure that when you feel loved, it's real. That when someone gives something to you, it's out of sincerity, not obligation or unspoken contracts. It's asking you to examine which ways of being you want to continue, and which ones end with you. You might catch yourself quietly thinking things like, "It didn't have to be that way," or "Maybe that wasn't actually love. Maybe it was loyalty trying to wear love's clothes." And in those moments, something sacred happens. Seeing what was rotten beneath the surface doesn't ruin the sweetness of what was good. It simply teaches you how to grow something better, something real and whole and yours. Just because something held you doesn't mean it helped you. Let's talk about the chain, the one we're taught never to question. The chain of family, of tradition, of duty, the one passed from hand to hand with phrases like, "That's just how it is," or "Be grateful, it could be worse," or "You owe them everything." This full moon doesn't play along with that narrative. It strips the chain of its golden paint and reveals what's really underneath. It was never gold. It was rust. It was fragile and sharp and heavy. And yet, you were told it was an honor to wear it, to let it shape your decisions, to let it wrap around your dreams and your voice, even when it hurt you. But here's what this moon wants you to know. Putting the chain down isn't betrayal. It's growth. It's proof that you're evolving beyond survival and into something freer. There's something sacred about realizing that the rules weren't holy. They were tools meant for survival in a different time. They worked for people who didn't have the choices you do. But what protected them then is hurting you now. And this full moon? It doesn't want your guilt. It's not asking for your apology. What it wants is your clarity. Maybe your grandmother stayed quiet so your mother could speak a little louder. Maybe your father carried more than his share just to keep everything from falling apart. But that doesn't mean you have to keep carrying it all. You weren't born to hold the whole house on your back. You were born to open the windows, to let something new in. This moment isn't rebellion. It's restoration. It's a returning to what's true. When the full moon rises and floods your world with light, it's not only showing you what's ahead, it's illuminating what's been hidden, so you can finally see it, name it, and release it. You were never truly bound. The chain wasn't locked. It only looked beautiful from far away. What was left unsaid didn't vanish. It learned how to echo. It shaped you in ways you couldn't see until now. If you really want to understand what kind of spell this moon is breaking, don't just look at what's loud. Look at what's silent. Because the deepest wounds aren't always created by arguments or conflict. They're often formed in the things that never happened. The words never spoken, the hugs withheld, the truths that had to be edited or swallowed to keep the peace. And somewhere along the way, we were taught that strength meant silence, that love meant not making waves, that peace was more important than truth. But maybe that so-called peace was just a disguise. Maybe it was emotional tension dressed up as tradition. This full moon is like a release valve for all the words your ancestors never had the chance to speak. That's why your emotions might rise for no clear reason. That's why you might feel an ache that isn't tied to a specific memory. Because not everything you're feeling actually belongs to you. You inherited the silence, even when the story behind it was never told. And now, you get to choose. You get to decide which stories continue and which ones end with you. You get to stand in the light of this full moon and say, no more. Not out of anger, but out of love. For yourself, for what's to come, and even for those who came before you. Because true healing honors the past without being imprisoned by it. You're not here to repeat what was. You're here to transform it. So when the tears come in a moment that feels joyful, let them. That's not weakness. That's truth finally breaking through. That's your heart recognizing the difference between inherited love and authentic love, between survival and freedom, between a role you were taught to play and the life you came here to live. The silence you've carried wasn't just yours. It was inherited. It was woven into your very being like muscle memory passed down through generations. You can see it in how your mother looked away when things got too deep, how your father would quickly change the subject, and in the quiet words of your grandparents saying, "We don't talk about that." They didn't know it, but those words were like a spell, keeping the pain intact, holding it in place. Now, under this moon's energy, something is shifting. It's not asking you to shout, to rebel loudly, or to break the silence with drama. It works more gently than that. It simply turns the silence up so loudly that you can no longer pretend not to hear it. It starts in your body. You might feel your throat tighten just when you want to speak up. Your chest might ache when you're near someone who has been emotionally absent for years. But the difference this time is, you notice. You let yourself feel it. You don't push it down like those who came before you. This isn't about starting fights or causing tension. It's not about throwing blame or trying to stir chaos where peace has finally been maintained, even if only on the surface. It's deeper than that. What you're feeling right now, this subtle friction, this strange sense of distance in familiar places, isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something inside you is waking up. Something sacred, something necessary. This moment in your life isn't about fixing generations of pain overnight. That's far too heavy for one person to carry. You were never meant to heal it all alone, and you certainly aren't failing just because it still hurts. But you do have the power to stop the silence from echoing through you. That's where your true strength lives, in the choice to break the cycle by choosing not to carry what was never meant to be yours. Sometimes healing doesn't look like heroic action. Sometimes it's quiet and gentle and deeply personal. Sometimes it's as simple as letting yourself feel an emotion you were taught to suppress. As simple as saying out loud the thing no one else dared to name. Maybe it's the tears that finally come when you're sitting in your car alone after a family dinner. Maybe it's the shiver that runs through you when someone makes a comment that once passed by unnoticed, but now feels sharp and unsettling. Maybe it's the moment your voice quivers and your throat tightens, not because you're weak, but because the truth is rising in you like a wave, and for once you're not going to push it down. You're not betraying anyone by being honest about what hurts. You're not ungrateful or dramatic for noticing what no one else wants to talk about. You're just awake now. You're feeling the full range of what it means to be alive, to be human, to be connected to something both ancient and entirely new at the same time. You are not the first to feel this heaviness, this strange in-between space where you don't quite fit where you used to. But you might be the first in your lineage to name it, to speak it, to let it move through you instead of burying it in silence. And that matters more than you realize. Silence may have kept the peace on the surface, but underneath, it's allowed generations of shame and pain to grow roots. Your voice, your truth, your tears, they uproot that old pattern. They make room for something more honest, something real. So if this week feels heavier than usual, if emotions hit you out of nowhere, if you suddenly feel the weight of things you thought you'd already let go of, don't panic. Let the wave come. Let yourself feel it. Cry if you need to. Walk away from the conversation if you need to. Take a deep breath and remember, you are not weak for feeling. You are strong for allowing yourself to. There's a strange kind of energy hanging in the air right now, one that makes everything feel slightly off-center. Maybe it's the full moon stirring the tides of your spirit. Maybe it's something deeper, something ancestral, something karmic, something that can't quite be explained with words, only felt in your bones. You might find yourself sitting at the table with people who've known you your whole life and still feel like a stranger. The same jokes might be told, the same rituals repeated, but they don't land the way they used to. There's a hollowness beneath the surface, a kind of invisible space growing between you and the old dynamics you once leaned on. You might find yourself asking quietly, was it always like this? Or am I just seeing it clearly now? That question alone tells you everything you need to know. You're not drifting aimlessly. You're seeing with new eyes. What used to feel like comfort now feels like stagnation. What once felt like connection now feels like performance. You're not broken for noticing it. You're becoming whole. This isn't detachment. It's clarity. The kind that only comes after you've done enough inner work to know the difference between belonging and tolerating. The kind that whispers, you deserve more. Not more material things, Not more praise, but more truth, more realness, more love that sees you, honors you, and doesn't ask you to shapeshift to be palatable. When you start healing, when you start evolving, your energy begins to shift. And that shift doesn't just affect you. It disrupts everything around you that's still clinging to the old way of being. Old roles, old dynamics, old expectations, they all start to feel heavy and out of place. That's not because you're becoming distant or difficult. It's because you're tuning into a new frequency, a higher one that no longer tolerates emotional games or false smiles or passive aggression disguised as tradition. You're starting to recognize the noise that once surrounded you, the quiet pain hidden beneath polite conversations, the tension held in everyone's shoulders. And for the first time, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend it's normal. That instinct to lean away from what no longer resonates isn't disconnection. It's divine guidance. It's your spirit telling you, you don't have to carry this anymore. Just because you were raised in it doesn't mean you have to stay in it. This shift you're going through might feel isolating at times. It might even bring up guilt. But here's the truth. This discomfort is sacred. It's feedback from your soul. It means your compass is resetting. You're being invited to live in alignment with your truth, rather than the version of you that was shaped by survival. You're no longer willing to make yourself smaller just to fit. You're no longer keeping quiet to keep others comfortable. You're not here to maintain traditions that asked you to suppress your light. You're not here to perform the rituals of numbness passed down by those who didn't know another way. You are here to shift something, to change it, not out of rebellion, but out of love. Because love, real love, doesn't ask you to hide. It doesn't demand your silence in exchange for belonging. It doesn't punish your authenticity or measure your worth by how obedient you are to the old story. Love holds space for you. Love sees the tears, the questions, the clarity, and welcomes them all. So if you find yourself drifting during conversations, zoning out during dinners, or suddenly feeling overwhelmed by a hollowness in a room that's supposed to feel warm, trust it. That isn't a sign of failure. It's a signal. It's your soul gently revealing to you the truth of what's ready to be healed. That quiet space you're noticing between yourself and others isn't empty. It's full of meaning. It's full of insight. It's an invitation. And how you respond to that invitation matters. Because in that choice, you decide what gets passed forward and what stops with you. You're not just breaking silence. You're building something new. A new pattern, a new emotional blueprint, a new legacy. One where emotions are allowed, not judged. One where truth is spoken, not hidden. One where love is clean and expansive and unconditional, not transactional and quietly controlling. It's okay to feel like you're somewhere in between right now, not fully rooted in your past, not yet fully planted in your future. This is the sacred middle. This is the part where transformation happens, not in the loud, dramatic ways we imagine, but in the everyday moments where you choose honesty over comfort, where you allow a tear to fall instead of swallowing it, where you say, "This doesn't feel right to me anymore," and let that truth rearrange the room. You don't have to shout. You don't have to fight. You don't have to burn it all down. You only have to be real. That's what begins the shift. That's what changes everything. So if your throat tightens this week, if your chest feels heavy, if your emotions rise unexpectedly, pause. Let yourself feel them. Don't explain them away. Don't apologize. Just be with yourself. In that moment, you are doing what someone before you never had the chance to do. And that's not just healing. That's freedom. That's power. That's transformation. This week, the question isn't whether you still fit into the rooms you've always walked into. It's no longer about whether you've done enough to be accepted, to be invited, to be understood. The deeper question, the one that stirs in your soul even before you can name it, is whether you can truly honor where you came from without losing yourself in it. Whether you can carry the wisdom of your roots without being buried beneath the weight of their pain. Whether you can be the bridge between the stories that shaped you and the future that's quietly waiting for you to choose it. The truth is, you weren't born to blend in. You weren't meant to shrink yourself to fit the mold handed down to you by generations who never had the luxury of choice. You are here, right now, in this precise moment in time, because your soul had the courage to return and do what they couldn't. You are the wildest hope of your ancestors, the whisper they never spoke aloud, the dream they tucked deep inside their hearts and buried beneath survival. They didn't get to be fully free, but you can. And that is no small thing. So if you find yourself feeling out of place this week, if your usual routines feel too tight, or the spaces you once found comfort in suddenly feel foreign, don't panic. Let that discomfort guide you. Let it speak to you in the language of your intuition. That strange ache in your chest, that quiet nudge from within, it's not there to punish you. It's trying to lead you somewhere new. It's not rejection, it's redirection. Not every place you've known is meant to hold your next chapter, and not every sweetness is meant to last forever. Some moments of beauty, of joy, of connection come into your life not to stay, but to shift you. They arrive as catalysts, as soft disruptions, as invitations to grow in ways you never imagined. And that's exactly what this strawberry full moon is bringing. It carries the kind of magic that doesn't linger. It doesn't ask for your permission or wait for you to feel ready. It arrives glowing, already burning with purpose, already fading. And if you're not careful, you'll miss the door it just opened. This moon isn't knocking softly at the edges of your comfort zone. It's pushing through the walls. It's stepping into your life with the quiet intensity of something sacred. It doesn't scream, but it dares. It whispers now or never, not as a threat, but as a gift. A moment being placed gently in your hands. A chance to become the version of yourself you keep postponing. Strawberries don't take their time. They bloom quickly, ripen completely, and disappear just as fast. That's their magic. That's their lesson. They don't exist to be preserved for someday. Their sweetness isn't meant to be stored away, waiting for the right moment. It's meant to be savored in its fullness now, before the moment slips through your fingers. This moon carries that same urgency, that same delicate clarity. It's here to remind you that life doesn't wait, that healing doesn't always arrive in the form of peace. It sometimes comes disguised as an ending you didn't see coming. This isn't just another moon phase. It's a shift in frequency. A call to step into a new version of yourself. Not in theory, not eventually, but now. And if you let this moment pass by without answering, it won't circle back in the same way. It will find someone else. Because that's how this kind of energy moves. It's tender, yes, but it's also mighty. It doesn't beg for your attention. It invites it. And that invitation is sacred. The silence you've carried, both yours and the one passed down through your bloodline, has lasted long enough. The quiet has stretched across generations like a spell, like a veil, like a weight that no one knew how to lift. But now, something within you is stirring. something old is being touched by something new, and you have a choice. You can let the silence continue, or you can become the sacred interruption. You can be the one who chooses to feel what no one before you had permission to feel. You can be the one who stops pretending that half love and quiet suffering are enough. There's no grand reward at the end of a life spent waiting. There's no shining medal for those who delay their own becoming until they feel fully prepared. And there is definitely no prize for staying loyal to versions of yourself that you've already outgrown. You're not here to pour your energy into dead roots, hoping they'll bloom again out of obligation. You're not here to keep investing in things that once felt sweet but have long since soured. That's not healing. That's self-abandonment. So many of the stories you inherited, the ones that told you to stay quiet, to be patient, to obey, to wait your turn, weren't rooted in love. They were rooted in fear. They were born out of survival, passed down by people who were only doing what they thought they had to. But you are not obligated to carry that fear forward. You are not bound to repeat the echoes of a past that never served your soul. You're here to end cycles, not extend them. And this moon, this radiant, fleeting, unapologetically powerful moon, doesn't care about upholding traditions built on silence. It doesn't honor patterns that ask you to pretend you're satisfied with crumbs just because your ancestors had no choice but to be. This moon is here to break spells, to cut cords, to hand you the mirror and say, look at who you are when you stop hiding. And yes, that reflection might be unfamiliar at first. It might scare you. It might even hurt. But it's real. And it's you. Some sweetness was never meant to be passed down. It was never meant to be taught or shared or stretched across generations like a duty. Some sweetness was meant to be remembered for what it was, and then released. Cherished, yes. Honored, absolutely. But not clung to. Not used as an excuse to stay small. Because your soul isn't looking for repetition. It's looking for something real. Something alive. Something that tastes like truth and feels like freedom. You are not betraying your lineage by becoming more than what they expected. You're fulfilling its deepest prayer. You're choosing to live in the light that they only dreamed of. And in doing so, you become the proof that healing is not only possible, it's inevitable when someone is brave enough to choose it. This moon is holding a mirror to your heart. And what it's reflecting isn't just the pain you've endured. It's the beauty you've become through it. It's the fire that hasn't gone out, even after all these years. It's the part of you that still believes in more, that still reaches for joy even with scars on your hands. So if everything feels like it's changing, it is. If everything suddenly feels more tender, more raw, more urgent, that's not a sign you're breaking. That's a sign you're waking up. And this is your moment. To walk away from the stories that no longer hold you. To stop pretending the silence is sacred just because it's familiar. To open your heart to the truth that some of the most beautiful chapters begin with letting go. And here it comes. The part that strikes the deepest chord. The truth that doesn't whisper but arrives like a wave, strong enough to knock the wind out of you before it helps you breathe in something new. It's the part we rarely say out loud because it feels so heavy, so delicate, and so charged with history. But here it is, gently and boldly. Becoming who you truly are is not a betrayal of your family. Choosing yourself is not abandonment. Living in alignment with your soul is not rejection. It's remembrance. It's liberation. It's a return to something your ancestors longed for but couldn't reach. You're not turning your back on anyone by following the path that calls your name in the dark. You're not destroying the people who raised you when you say, "I need something different." What you're breaking isn't them. It's the echo of silence, fear, and suppression that was passed down like a family heirloom. You're biting into a life they were taught was too dangerous to want. You're touching a dream they didn't have permission to chase. You're feeling the emotions they had to numb just to survive. You're saying out loud the words they swallowed to keep peace, even when it cost them themselves. And yes, choosing this path will stir things up. The guilt may surface like a fog, making it hard to see clearly. You might feel it most in quiet moments, in the spaces between your choices and their reactions. You might feel it in the tension of a family dinner, where your silence used to keep everyone comfortable, but now your truth makes the air feel heavier. There might be disapproval in their eyes, confusion in their questions, maybe even a little distance from those who don't understand why you're shifting away from what was always expected of you. There may be moments when the room feels colder than you remember, and you wonder if you've done something wrong. But stay with it, because on the other side of all that discomfort lives something sacred, something your lineage never got to fully hold in their hands. Freedom, breath. Not the kind of breath you take automatically, but the kind that comes from deep within your chest when you realize you're no longer hiding, no longer shrinking, no longer trying to twist yourself into a shape that makes others feel safe at the expense of your own spirit. That first taste of freedom is equal parts exhilarating and terrifying, like standing at the edge of a cliff and realizing you've always had wings, you just forgot how to use them. This moon, this moment, isn't about offering you a map. It's not handing out detailed instructions or wrapping your questions in neat little answers. It won't tell you exactly where you're going, and it doesn't promise clarity in every direction. What it's offering instead is far more subtle, but much more profound. It's giving you a moment, just one, a single luminous point in time. A pause that holds within it a strange kind of magic, the kind that doesn't look like much from the outside, but holds the potential to shift everything from the inside out. It might arrive as a sudden emotion that takes your breath away, or a quiet nudge that whispers, "It's time." Maybe it's a tear that falls when you hear a song that sounds like something you've always needed but never had. Maybe it's a realization that erupts in the middle of an ordinary day, leaving you stunned by its truth. However it comes, don't overlook it. This moment is a seed, one that asks only this of you. Don't wait for perfect. Don't wait for every piece of your life to align neatly before you make your move. That day may never come. There's no such thing as the perfect time, but there is such a thing as a true time, a soul-aligned time. And this may be it. So take the bite. Even if your hands are trembling and your voice shakes when you speak, even if your heart is pounding and your body feels unsure, take it anyway. Say the words you've been holding in. Make the choice that your inner knowing has been quietly nudging you toward. Follow the path that scares you just enough to feel real, because in doing so, you begin the sacred work of ending a cycle that was never meant to last. You begin the work of saying, "It stops with me." And when you do, when you finally take that first shaky step, you'll notice something subtle but undeniable. You'll begin to feel the difference between the kind of peace that was handed to you and the kind you had to fight for. The inherited kind, the one that demands your silence, your compliance, your suppression, might feel safe at first, but it doesn't last. It withers the spirit over time. but the peace you build for yourself, the one rooted in truth, integrity, and soul alignment. That peace sustains you. It expands you. It may cost more upfront, but it never asks you to shrink. This moon isn't asking you to cut ties with your lineage. It's not telling you to walk away from where you came from. It's inviting you to stand in the full complexity of both your roots and your wings. You were never meant to choose one or the other. You were meant to honor both, to remember the soil that raised you, while also allowing yourself to rise beyond its limitations. This moon is here to remind you that pretending you don't have wings doesn't serve anyone. Least of all, you. Let something ripen inside you now. Let that quiet, knowing you've been pushing down, finally stretch its arms. Let the sweetness of truth, however small, begin to stir what's been frozen inside you for far too long. Let it loosen the knots. Let it melt the fear. Let it awaken the parts of you that know it's okay to want more. More authenticity, more love, more space to just be. What comes next, after this moon, after this moment, won't taste like what came before. It can't. Because once you've tasted real freedom, the old patterns lose their flavor. The old roles become too tight. The old masks too heavy. And that's not a loss. It's a beginning. The beginning of a chapter that gets written in your own voice. A life where your joy isn't borrowed, your truth isn't filtered, and your healing doesn't need permission. So if you're still here, still listening, still feeling the weight and wonder of all this, thank you. Thank you for giving this message space in your heart. Thank you for staying open to the truth, even when it stings a little before it heals. Your presence matters. Your healing matters. And what you're doing right now by simply being willing to change, that matters more than you know. If this stirred something in you, if it echoed in a place that's been waiting for acknowledgement, know that you're not alone. There's a quiet revolution happening in the hearts of those who are finally daring to break the echo. And your voice is part of it. Your courage feeds it. Your presence makes it stronger. If you feel called to be part of more moments like this, I invite you to stay close. Subscribe if you feel led. Share your reflections in the comments if this message touched something tender in you. I would be honored to hear what it stirred, what it reminded you of, what it awakened, what it helped you finally name. Until next time, take care of your heart. Be gentle with your process. Honor the courage it takes to be real in a world that often prefers the performance. And most of all, stay open to the truth that's blooming inside you, even now, even here. Because the moment you stop apologizing for your truth, the moment you claim your space without shrinking, the moment you choose to be fully and unapologetically you, that's the moment your story begins to bloom in ways that generations before you only dreamed about.